Hello, hello. This is Sabrina Amina, and I am the host of the Feelings Pod, where I share a little bit about the feelings that are coming up this week and how we can navigate our emotional experiences with a bit more presence and mindfulness. At the end of each episode, I share a mindfulness practice that you can enjoy as well. Today's episode is about self-compassion, depression, and my messy home. And it makes sense that I experience depression rather frequently. It's actually this ever-present companion, and I've been experimenting with befriending my depression. If you're curious about things I've said in the past about this topic, there's another episode on depression, but hopefully this one is a bit more lighthearted, because I'm feeling optimistic about my depression today, if that's even possible. I mean, it is possible because that's just where I'm at today. And I have a very messy home that I feel constantly overwhelmed by. I think it's a symptom of my depression that I can't seem to move the needle on creating like a consistently clean open space, or like it's clean but it's just untidy and I have too many things and I'm constantly feeling overwhelmed by like piles of laundry that need to be put away and just disorganization. So I'm doing an experiment, and there are a lot of reasons for this, but it's just, I'm a single parent, I teach full time, but all of these to me feel like excuses. I'm like, well, lots of people teach and have a tidy home, and but I'm doing my best to approach this with a little bit more curiosity and say, okay, well, it's hard for me to look at the living room and feel like I can do anything to make progress. But lately I've been experimenting with just 5 things. Like there are 5, I can pick up 5 pieces of laundry. I can fold 5 pieces of laundry. And I've done something. And usually after folding those 5 pieces of laundry, I'll be like, oh, that was pretty easeful. I feel pretty good about myself after doing that. And I'm going to fold 5 more pieces of laundry. I have a bit more space because today is the first Monday of my summer vacation. School ended for me last Thursday. I'm a high school French teacher. And so I have space to be more slow and intentional about my tidying up. It is really my number one priority at this moment. And another number one priority I have, and they're related, is inviting more friends into my home. My mess keeps me isolated. I have this story that because I have a messy home, I'm not allowed to have anyone over. And not just I'm not allowed, but I have a deep shame about like the state of my home. I don't think it reflects who I am, or it reflects the worst parts of who I am, I think sometimes. Like, I'm messy. So I've been learning to be more kind to my messy self and say, my home is really messy and that's okay. There are things I can do that will make me feel better, and that's folding 5 pieces of laundry or taking naps in between my cleaning tasks or lying down and resting just so that I can not feel overwhelmed by a task. I'm not one to power through anything. I just, when I'm done, I'm done. I've been hard on myself in the past for kind of starting and stopping projects, because it's difficult for me to do something until the end. I just don't have that. I get bored and I get tired, unless like I absolutely have to do it, unless it's like a life or death situation. Maybe let's not say life or death. I don't like that language. If it's a situation that like I'll lose my job if I don't do this task, I'll get it done. I mean, that is like a survival thing. It's not life and death, but you know, my job is an important part of my livelihood. So I do my best to meet deadlines and get things done, to do non-preferred tasks. Yeah. And then the interesting thing that happens is when I do little things, my state of depression feels a little bit lighter. It's like, oh, look at me. I can be depressed and do things. I can be depressed and still be a really awesome person, worthy of love, and having friends over who will love me anyway, even if I'm messy. It seems obvious, but when you're in a state of like overwhelm, I shut down. You know, it's hard for me to see the things that are simple and obvious. So this summer, I'm moving slowly. I'm giving myself permission to not do it all at once. I'm giving myself permission and telling myself it's okay to not power through things. It's okay to like do things in bite-sized pieces and take breaks in between and lie down and have a piece of chocolate or record a podcast in between tasks. It's okay. It's all okay. I think the antidote for my depression is really generally doing small things consistently, being consistently kind to myself as much as I can, and reaching for my people. I had such a sweet, short little trip upstate this weekend, and I spent time with a dear friend. And my old friend Luke from college, and we hadn't seen each other since we graduated, but over the years we'd kept in touch, and we shared poems and went swimming together and shared meals together, and it was just a sweet time of connection, and we both kind of acknowledged to one another the things that we're working on and agreed to hold each other accountable. And it's so helpful to be connected to one another. It's so important for us to share, hey, this is the thing that I'm working on that's important to me. Is it okay if I check in with you about it on my progress? We really need each other. And sometimes when we get in this depressy, messy space, it's hard to reach for anybody. But when I remember to do that, I come back to life. One of my favorite coaches, I don't even know if coach is the appropriate term for her, but Simone Soul on... I follow her on Instagram, but she has so many wonderful offerings, and she shared this really beautiful post about depression recently that really spoke to me. I was so encouraged by it, and I'll share it with you. Simone Grace Soul, an honest talk about my mental health struggles. And I won't read the whole thing, but the broad strokes. As a baseline, I am prone to melancholy and depression. That means the perpetual background low hum of my brain is, what's the point? I find the basic realities of earthly life confusing and heartbreaking and scary. I always feel like I'm a few life unfortunate circumstances away from a catastrophic decision. I am also tightly wound, anxious, and neurotic. As vivacious, energetic, and courageous as I come across, and I am genuinely these things, I easily snap into a tight ball of fear and numbness in the face of new circumstances, new people, and unexpected change. Sometimes it takes me forever to get regulated enough to do basic things like ask someone for directions. I am also extraordinarily sensitive and relationally attuned. Other people being disappointed in me or being critical of me can be extraordinarily painful to the point of inducing dissociative paralysis. After visiting places like historical sites where a lot of bad things happened, sometimes it takes me days, weeks, or even months to release and shake off energy that doesn't belong to me. Everything I just said so far, I have learned through a lot of extraordinarily messy trial and error to carry somewhat skillfully. I've been fortunate enough to be able to invest deeply in self-awareness and self-fluency and learned a ton over the years that made life so much more bearable. Against all odds, I rewired so many of my responsive habits so that I could create things like a healthy business, a thriving creative practice, a happy marriage. That's the thing. I can and do change how I respond to my baseline wiring, but the baseline wiring does not change, nor do I think it's meant to. I do not feel sorry for myself. Well, okay, sometimes I do, but mostly not. The way that I am wired is closely linked to my creative genius. No way on earth I could be the exquisitely, finely attuned thinker and practitioner I could be without my sensitivity. No way I could have the depth of empathy I do without my intimacy with the darkness of life. My mental health struggles are critical components of the richly, beautifully, brilliantly textured tapestry that is my inner life. And everything I create in my life, which I am so fortunate to have been appreciated and financially remunerated for, is a direct output of that. I share this because I think the world needs reminders that mental health struggles are real and they are painful and they are a problem And also, they are not a problem. I know for a fact that a younger version of me would have deeply been served to see a role model who is living a life of bold creativity and hasn't had to overcome or heal their depressive and anxious wiring. Healing is such a cover for so much bypassing and the modern Western world's infantile fear of the dark complexity of spiritual reality. Ultimately, I share this with the hope that it made at least some of you feel a little less lonely and a little more seen and a little more hopeful today. Those of us with mental health struggles are not projects to be fixed. We are meant to be loved, celebrated, and supported. Yeah, life is on hard mode for many of us. Just know that someone out there sees you and is deeply, deeply glad that you're still around. Reading those words was a balm for me, and I'm going to continue being my messy, depressy, creative, joyful, big-hearted, beautiful self, and let's get into our practice for today. Find a comfortable seat. Take a deep breath in. And just notice what you're picking up on. We'll do an exploration of our 5 senses. Notice what you hear in this moment. What do you hear in your immediate surroundings? What do you hear beyond that? Do any of these sounds bring up emotion for you? Moving on to our sense of smell. Is there any smells you can pick up on right now? Anything subtle? Maybe a pleasant smell? Maybe a not so pleasant smell? Or maybe you don't smell much of anything. Noticing your sense of taste. Noticing your taste buds. Noticing your sense of touch. What do you feel on your skin right now? What temperatures? What textures? And if your eyes are closed, notice what you see. In your mind's eye. If your eyes are open, allow your gaze to rest on something that feels good to look at. Maybe it's a plant, maybe it's something, a color, maybe it's a treasured object, picture of a loved one. What do you see? Thank you so much for practicing with me today. a wonderful day.